Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Our time is now with LSU basketball.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
One way or another, we're going to make history.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
LSU is the best job in football.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
I came here to win. We're going to win immediately.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Sunshine Quality Solutions. Super Chevy Dealers. And Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Case Kieschnick and our hosts, Todd Horn, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
Players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, Editor Glenn Gilbo, and our producer, Case Kieschnick. Got a good show for you. We hope you had a safe and happy 4th of July. LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson's going to be joining us a little bit later on in the hour. We'll also have a couple of individuals from on3.com to talk some football. Glenn West will join us at 7 p.m., and we'll also hear from our good friend Chris Lowe as well. Todd, you have a good 4th?
You know, it was kind of sedate, believe it or not.
Yeah.
For me. But it was enjoyable, and I got to watch the big 250th celebration that lasted for 55 hours. So it was fun.
It was fun, and it extended in my neighborhood until July 5th, Sunday night at 9:30.
You live in the party town.
I don't know what it is.
Palermo in the party town.
I don't know what it is about people the day after 4th of July to start shooting fireworks again at 9:30. On the day after 4th of July.
What else did y'all do? Did y'all like barbecue again on the 5th? And, have a block party?
I've never understood that. You get that on January 2nd too, or January 1st, New Year's Day. You get that too.
Yeah.
Just save it for the next time. You don't have to do it the next.
Yeah, I know.
Well, anyways, hey, it's with it being July, that means it's basically a new athletic season, Todd. 2025-26. As bad as it was, it's now in our rear view mirror.
It is, and I'm glad you brought that up because we hadn't talked about it, but the latest issue of Tiger Rag, the July issue, is now, should be on newsstands probably tomorrow morning, and it's online digitally at the website, tigerrag.com, and we break down the whole year in entirety.
What a year it was.
The year LSU changed everything.
Yeah.
And that's what we have on the cover. It's a great issue. Check it out.
Who would have thought at this time a year ago that you would have two new head coaches, two guys that kind of felt like pipe dreams, right? Lane Kiffin and Will Wade. Will Wade in particular. And the LSU baseball team would have a season where they weren't even close to making the NCAA tournament. They weren't even on the bubble to make the NCAA tournament.
It was actually the worst SEC baseball season LSU's had in, 60 years or something like that?
Right.
I mean,
modern history.
Yeah, actually, it was the worst. And Glenn did a story on this on TigerRag.com last month. As far as the big three goes, football, basketball, and baseball, LSU sports had the worst season it's ever had since 1965.
On the men's side, Todd, if you think about it, the last time LSU fans really savored a victory, you got to go back to June of 2025 when they beat Coastal Carolina to win a national championship game.
It's been a long time.
I don't include the Clemson game in that, in the sense that was more of a relief. Whew, finally won the season opener. Oh man! And even like the game against Florida at home, it was like we just
barely.
Thank goodness there was a pick six, or else they would have. There was never LSU fans And granted, Lady Tiger basketball fans had their big wins, and I guess gymnastics obviously had its great meets, and even LSU softball beat Oklahoma this year.
Yeah.
There was never a point where LSU fans of the men's teams ever sat there and said, "Man, that was a great win. This team looks really good." Never in there.
Matt. Well, no, Clemson was kind of like we were saying a minute ago. To us, it was like a relief.
That was a big win, though.
Nobody was saying, "Okay, this is."
Well, no, but
they got over the hump. I don't think you're remembering that right.
No, we are.
People thought they were kind of okay. We got over this hump.
But that's your perspective. Okay, that's good. That's
I'm
fine.
not just doing mine. I remember how the fans.
Okay,
felt.
But that's true. That's how it was. But in retrospect, we know that it was nothing.
Well, yeah, but what you were saying was, they never had. I mean, they didn't have much. But I would say if you had to pick one win for the men's side that people thought was going to lead to something, it was the Clemson win.
Yeah.
I mean, Clemson was ranked high, and it was on the road.
Yeah, but it turned out in retrospect that the only win that they had over a real team, you did the article, was Matt McMahon's win.
I still go back to that Clemson game as it was more of a relief. They won the season opener.
But if I'm sorry, but if you're talking about right then, you see, because if you go retrospect, the win over number 1 Florida in 1997 was not that big a win because they ended up in the Independence Bowl and they lost to Ole Miss.
Regardless, the excitement level of this entire season was all
big time down.
Well, not only that, but everything that LSU fans got excited about was away from the field, the court, or the baseball diamond.
And look how LSU responded as an athletics department, as a university, to everything that happened.
They flipped it. They turned it on its head.
I think April 23rd. I think April 23rd. It wasn't a panic. It was a plan. And I think April 23rd. In retrospect, will go down this year. Will go down as one of the biggest, most monumental days in LSU athletics history. That's the day the LSU Board of Supervisors voted to approve right at $50 million in restructuring changes for the athletic department, which included Will Wade, the basketball team, raised ticket prices, raised parking prices. They basically said, okay, we're going to pay Brian Kelly his $54 million. We're going to give Lane Kiffin whatever he wants. We're going to bring back Will Wade. We're going to start investing in men's basketball for the first time in at least.
They had to pay the buyout, though, and that was decided in December.
I know, but I'm just saying, that could have been a decision that they said, okay, we got to pay. We got to pay for this, so we're going to take it easy on basketball.
Oh, right. I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
They
did.
Went all in.
They went all in. They pushed all the
in.
chips to the center of the table, and they said, we're going for it. And it is the most, monumental time in the history of LSU athletics, which is why this coming football season, not just because of the schedule and not just because it's Lane Kiffin's reset in his first year, this is a huge year for LSU sports coming up in less than 2 months now.
But they're going to have to go all in, in the future too. I mean, it's not like that's just going to take care of everything. I mean, I think that was a huge first step, but there's going to be times probably in the near future where they have to go all in again. It might not be for a coach because hopefully their coaches are set now with Wade and Kiffin, but there might be a time when they we got to go all in on this portal, like Will Wade's next class.
But if football goes 8-4, men's basketball goes 18 games, right? 7-11 in SEC. Baseball, another 16-14 season, and they're playing somewhere else for a regional or something like that. There's going to be eventually, and this is the reason why they had to pull the plug on Brian Kelly.
Well, you can go to Omaha when you go 16-14.
You're right.
In fact, you can win the national championship at 14-16.
But let's just say it's another. Let's say if LSU baseball has a season like they did in 2024, right? They go to some other teams. They go to somewhere else at a regional. They lose. There were some highs, some lows, but mostly, it's not, obviously it's not Omaha.
So let's do this again. Wait, let's just a quick summary. So you got LSU football going 8-4.
8-4, men's hoops going 7-11 in SEC play, and then baseball losing in a regional, just losing in a regional.
It'll be horrible.
Because then how do you go?
It'll be horrible, but no dramatic coaching changes will take place.
How do you go back to all these individuals that invested?
Because it wasn't a one-year investment. Even if it is a big year where you got to win, they were investing for 3 years. It was a future investment. I mean, Lane Kiffin, his roster is going to. There's going to be a lot of players that are on the roster right now that are still on the team in 2028.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that's true. Because he did recruit a lot.
That's what the investment's about.
Would you quit interrupting me?
Go ahead.
So he brings in 60-something new players. I mean, they're carrying 108 players on the football roster this year as of right now. Almost 60 of them are brand new, whether they're recruits or portal.
Yeah.
But even, I understand what you're saying, Glenn, but if they go 8-4, Lane is going to come back and say, okay, we made strides, but you know what? We can really use this guy over here. We could really use this, or they're still going to come.
He's going to get whatever he needs.
Come out with his hands out,
if he goes undefeated, he's going to come out with his hands out too.
But then people are willing to spend it then.
Okay, well, I think they'll still be willing to spend even if they stub their toe, because there's so much love of Will Wade and Lane Kiffin that even if they stumble somewhat in their first year, that love of those two guys by this fan base and the donors, it's still going to last. Eventually it'll go down, but it's still going to last.
To Glenn, and I'm going to actually agree and support Glenn on this. Can you believe that? So
I agree for Will Wade.
But it's not a future thing, because the structure is already in place. Because LSU has increased ticket sales for football and basketball dramatically since Lane Kiffin and Will Wade were hired, hugely, and it increased prices. Okay, so at least in basketball. So not only that, I think this is the most important thing. Their donor base has almost tripled in size. The regular, I'm not talking about huge donors, although I'm sure that's gone up quite a bit as well, but LSU's donor base is growing. There are people making commitments, pledges. It's 3 times larger than it was already. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think LSU because it's LSU basketball and people trust Will Wade, but I'm telling you, if people love Lane now, but all it takes is a couple of bad losses and people start turning.
He's the general, bruh.
I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think they're going to at least win 9 games, and I think they're going to be right there in the hunt for a college football playoff. I honestly feel that way.
And the thing that I think you're forgetting too, by just going to the win-loss count, regardless of what their record ends up, as they're moving toward that record, it's going to be a much better brand of football. It's going to be much more entertaining. People are going to be more excited to see a running game and a better passing game. Mm-hmm. And the third year of a defense that Lane didn't have to mess with. All he had to do was keep Blake.
Well,
that defense is going to be really good.
And plug in some pretty powerful parts,
but a lot of those DBs on that team and linebackers, especially Witt, or returnees.
No, I agree. But it's like, to his credit, to LSU's credit, to Lane Kiffin's, to Blake Baker's, to the entire team, they didn't sit there and say, okay, well, we're going into our third year and we've got these good players coming back like Weeks and Tamarcus Cooley and blah, blah, blah. We're going to actually plug in where we think there are weaknesses. And you come up with one of the best edge rushers in the country that you bring in from Ole Miss. You bring in probably the best safety in the country,
but it's not a complete overhaul on defense.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. The point is they plugged in. They didn't stop.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. All right, let's hit our first break. LSU recruiting is not stopping. Jaden Anding, the 4-star safety from Ruston. He committed to LSU. Had a chance to talk with Matt Bellison of the Ruston Leader. We'll hear from him when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a fourth-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with Todd, Glenn, and Case. Earlier today, had a chance to talk with a sports reporter with the Ruston Daily Leader, Matt Bellison. He knows everything there is to know about Louisiana Tech, and he covers Ruston High. And today, Jaden Anding, the four-star safety for the Bearcats, committed to LSU over Ole Miss. It was a big recruiting battle between the Tigers and the Rebels. LSU gets it. It's the 16th commitment for LSU in the class of 2027. Here's Matt's take on Jaden Anding. Some really good stuff, good perspective as he joins Ahmad Hudson, his current Ruston teammate, as two guys that are part of this 2027 class. Matt Bellison with the Ruston Leader. And Matt, Jaden Anding announced his commitment today. Some drama with this one. We were expecting to hear some sort of announcement last week. It got pushed to this week, but he's still heading to LSU. I just think, first of all, just your thoughts on the whole situation.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I don't think it's too surprising. I think when you just look at all the variables, obviously his brother Aiden in his second year there, I think obviously, LSU offered him pretty early in his recruitment. And I think just given the fact that, obviously the family, the Aiden family is well familiar with just what LSU provides and just the infrastructure and obviously the history of the defensive backs that they put in the NFL. I think all those things just combined. It was a pretty easy decision, I think, for Jaden. Obviously, like you mentioned, he did, postpone his recruitment. Obviously, Ole Miss put up one heck of a fight. But I think in the end, it was pretty safe to say that LSU was the easy choice for him.
The fact that Corey Raymond is the secondary coach and now Ed Orgeron is on the staff, how much did that play into this, do you think, Matt?
There's no doubt. I mean, he specifically mentioned those two by name in his live recruitment on the Rivals YouTube page. I think one of those things that I think goes underrated again is just obviously, Coach O coming back into the fold. I know obviously he was a huge part of obviously laying, obviously just the recruiting infrastructure that LSU wants to promote. Moving forward, obviously when you win a national title, it's pretty easy to sell what what you're doing at LSU. And so yeah, I certainly think that him back in the process matters quite a bit. And again, like I mentioned before, I think Jaden knows what Coach Raymond obviously has done with that program and obviously what he's done, for his brother. I think certainly those conversations have been happening. So again, I think all those conversations have just been taking place. And I think it was pretty easy for Jaden to feel comfortable just knowing like, hey, these people have a good plan and they have proven track records of winning.
Aiden Anding, I remember his recruitment and the fact that he was a kid that was mostly a basketball player and then started playing football, if I remember, not until his sophomore season. And then he caught fire. He went to some camps. He's got the body type for it, the athletic ability. Tell us about Jaden Anding and what makes him so special.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the opposite, of his brother. He's definitely a primary football player. He plays some basketball. He comes off the bench for the Bearcat basketball program, but he's certainly not to the level of the basketball player that his older brother was. And Jaden's a very rangy safety. They definitely trust him a lot. Back there just to make plays on the ball. He's a hard hitting safety. He's not afraid of contact. You'll see a lot in his highlights that he's a kid that they not only will play down in the box, but he can also come down and make those tackles. Potentially when they're missed. On the front line. And so he's a kid that loves contact. He makes plays on the ball. In 2 varsity seasons. He's got 9 interceptions, so that's pretty great ball skills right there. And so I'm really looking forward to how they're going to utilize him this fall. Obviously Ruston High, a lot of changes on the defensive staff going on with them. Obviously they brought in a couple different kids, and obviously they're changing some kids, position-wise. And so I think they recognize that Jaden is a piece that they can kind of move around and play with. He's certainly going to continue to play at safety in the secondary for Ruston, his senior year. But he's definitely a piece that they know that if they need to move him somewhere else, positionally on the field, like he's a kid that has high IQ, and he's shown that he's able to make plays on multiple sides of the field. So I'm really looking forward to just what he's able to do in his senior year at Ruston.
So you already have Aiden Anding at LSU. Unfortunately, won't be able to play this season because of an Achilles injury. But you got Ahmad Hudson, and now you got Jaden. I would imagine Ruston fans are pretty excited to see that this school has become kind of is manufacturing talent for LSU.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think obviously you go back a couple years ago, obviously Ahmad Bro, I know obviously he transferred to Kentucky, but, again, that's another kid coming out of Ruston High that was able to land, at LSU. And again, you look at Jordan Guidry at Tulane. I mean, obviously Josh Brantley, going from Tulane to La Tech. I mean, this is a program that is no stranger to putting out collegiate talent. And I think when you look at Ruston on paper this year, it's probably the most talented that they've been since I've been covering this team. Again, like you talk about just their senior class, like you mentioned, obviously Ahmad and Jaden, Sam Hartwell, their quarterback, is committed to Louisiana Tech. Josiah Morgan, wide receiver, is committed to Baylor. And then you get to the 28 class, and you got, probably the best running back in the 28 class in the state, Dalen Powell, who certainly has an LSU offer, and LSU is going to fight hard to get. You mentioned, Shamar Evans, a linebacker, for Ruston as well in the 28 class. So there's some kids in the senior class that are certainly going to get some more of the attention. But, LSU fans should definitely be paying attention to Ruston High, in 2028, because there's more kids coming. This is a program that is never short on talent. And I think this fall, Ruston fans are just excited, I think, for it all to come together.
That was Matt Bellison of the Ruston Leader giving us a good scouting report on Jaden Anding. And I think it's important to note, Aiden Anding was pretty much a basketball player, and then sophomore year started playing football, and he really took off. But as Matt was telling us, Jaden is more of your prototypical football guy. This has been his primary sport, so might be even a little bit more advanced than Aiden Anding. And then again, another player here, and we saw this too with Greedy James, who committed to LSU after being committed to Texas. Another guy here who really looks at Corey Raymond and Ed Orgeron as two guys as the reason why they want to play at LSU. Granted, money's a factor. It's always going to be a factor, but you sometimes need to have these intangibles as well, and having guys like Corey Raymond and Ed Orgeron in your staff certainly help you do that, and that's where LSU is prospering right now. Let's take a break. Jay Johnson when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio. The East Baton Rouge Parish Library's dedicated millage continuation is on the June 27th ballot. This is not a new tax. It's a continuation of the library's existing dedicated funding source at a lower rate, 9.5 mils, which is 14.4% less than the rate approved by voters in 1995, 2005, and 2015. Without it, future library services could be reduced, including hours, collections, and programs. Early voting begins June 12th. Learn more at ebrpl.com/millage.
Tiger Rag Radio is back, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Hey, we're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine. That would be Todd Horn. And the editor, Glenn Gilbo. Thanks for being a part of the show. And joining us now, LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson. Coach Johnson, hope you had a great 4th of July. You certainly got the weekend started with a bang on Friday. Tell us about Angel Laya, who comes in from Oregon, and what you see out of him and what you really like about the kid.
Yeah, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good.
Yeah, very excited about Angel. Very good player, freshman All-American at Oregon. Hit 14 homers, which I think was like the freshman home run record at Oregon. Very good, solid hitter, player. Is from San Diego. Played at a great high school, East Lake High School down there. Same high school as Adrian Gonzalez, so they're good at developing premium left-handed hitters. He's a good outfielder, has a great throwing arm, and really competitive guy, and fits nicely into our team.
Coach, I guess there's no other way to really say it. I mean, the transfers that you brought in basically remade your defense. I mean, and with Stephen Milam coming back, it looks like you're going to have a whole new defense with Milam at shortstop again.
Yeah, I'm excited about what we were able to do. I think getting some really talented players, but they're contributing on, or can contribute on both sides of the ball. You know, what I'd call balanced attack players. Thought that was something we really needed to improve and elevate. And I think, you know, you look at those outfielders, you guys mentioned Angel, but Jason Wax, Bino Waters, good defensive players, good athletes, got good speed. So that will help on defense, and obviously really, really high-end hitters. Cade Curlin from Florida coming in at second base. He's probably played more games at second base over the last 4 years than any player in the country, and done it at the SEC level, and familiar with him back from the 23 College World Series. He was batting leadoff for Florida in the national championship game against us. So excited about Cade. And then Dawson Park, really good shortstop as well. That very versatile, could play a lot of defense. And so excited about the guys that we added, on the position player side of it. And hopefully they'll complement the returners in this good class of freshmen. Hopefully we get through the draft and put a good unit out there.
Angel Lyle was a right fielder for Oregon. Bino Waters played left at Notre Dame. Jason Wax was mainly a corner outfielder. So center field, is that still kind of up for grabs? Is William Patrick obviously still an option? I know you love his athletic ability, and also Nathaniel Davis is going to arrive on campus as well.
Yeah, you got two burners there for sure. And William, one of the fastest players I've ever coached, and Nathaniel, great runner, great speed, great athleticism. Jason can definitely play center. We've had him playing center field in the Cape up in Wareham, and he's done a really nice job with that. Angel's a very instinctive player, like I said, has a really good pedigree coming from where he comes from, good instincts. And Bino, for his size, is a good runner. So I think we'll be able to cover it fine out there. Obviously, we had the best center fielder in the country this year. And essentially had three center fielders playing the outfield when we were fully healthy. That just didn't happen very often this year. So, it'll be a little different, but I'm confident we'll get those guys where we need to be an excellent defensive team.
Well, Jay, you got the draft coming up on Saturday and Sunday of your 22-man high school class. How many you think you stand a chance of losing to the draft?
Whew. I should be able to answer that better because it's all I've been looking at for the past week. Spreadsheets, whiteboards, notebooks. I don't know that we actually have that many anymore because a couple guys decided to go do some other things or go to other schools, and that's fine, for their opportunities. But, looking at this group, I think it's a legitimate chance that 13 of them could get drafted. Now, I don't think all 13 will, at least in a place to be able to sign. But it could be anywhere from like 6 to 13. I think if we got out of there with only 6 drafted, I would probably say that's probably a win, a big win.
So, Jay, you just mentioned that you recently lost 2 of the signees or recruits that you were bringing in. One of them was C.J. Weinstein, who's apparently going to go to UCLA if he doesn't get drafted. Do you think he'll get drafted high enough that he'll never play college ball, first of all?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure what the draft interest is on him. I know he went to the combine. We obviously really liked him as a player. He's a really good hitter, left-handed hitting second baseman, and he's an older player. So, he's one of those, draft-eligible sophomores. And I think, maybe he and his family felt like UCLA was a better fit with, they had a really, really old team this year. They essentially lost everybody.
Right.
They'll have a bunch of players drafted. So I think maybe they thought that was a better fit for his freshman year, given the fact that, you're a draft-eligible sophomore. If you go to college, you're probably hoping to only stay there for 2 years. So playing for those guys in that first year becomes a little bit more important, and I'm sure that's what they were thinking. But he's a good kid and good player, and hopefully gets what he wants as far as the draft, or hopefully we'll see him in Omaha and play the Bruins in Omaha again.
Do you think, Jay, that he's a shortstop, and do you think since he is a sophomore draft eligible player, whether he goes immediately or waits, like you said, that Milam's decision to come back impacted him?
For sure. Yeah, 100%. And it's how this business goes. And, I think we've done a really good job with this recruiting class and this roster of, covering ourselves. On the position player side of it, no matter what happens in the draft, I think we have a very good team and very good unit on the position player side of it. On the pitching side of it, the development of the returners and their improvement is important. We like the 3 pitchers we got out of the portal. We have a ton of talent from the high school ranks, and we're going to get some of those guys through. Sometimes you have a better chance with the pitchers than you do the position players because those premium hitters, they stand out like a sore thumb, and the teams really want to pay them, but sometimes they're leery about paying high school right-handers, and we have a good crop of those guys. So hopefully we can get them through and get some depth and really good balance in the team and the pitching staff.
Yeah, and the other pitcher you lost, Colton Chrisman, left-hander, decommitted, and I think that was right after you got a pitcher in the portal. So is that the only 2 guys from that original 24 that you lost, or are there a couple other ones that maybe decommitted?
You know, I know this is going to sound pretty. I actually have to look at it because I've been so focused on who we have a chance to be, or I haven't really thought about that a whole lot over the last 2 weeks. But Cole's a good kid too, and got a great arm, and I think for his development, I think he can be a good draft. Just needs to start out his college career at a place where he's going to pitch a lot, and he'll definitely do that. He's a name we'll hear or see down the road. I would almost guarantee you in college baseball, and this is these players' lives too. It's their career too, and you know they make some decisions based on those things, and he'll do well wherever he goes.
So Jay, one other pitching conversation. Obviously, last time you were on our show, not a month ago even, you talked about how pleased you were with the performance and the progress that Marcos Paz made coming off of his injury, and of course, he elected to enter the transfer portal. Hadn't decided yet on a destination, but was that a kind of a hit?
Maybe surprise. I feel like we made a really good investment in him and the time that we gave him and allowed him to pitch through some struggles. And he's a talented young guy, and felt like he needed a different situation for whatever reason. And players are entitled to that. And, nowadays there's less of a connection to a school or a team. And, so that was that. And, I hope he finds what he's looking for.
Jay, we appreciate your time, man. We thank you very much, as always. Always good information that you provide us. We'll talk to you again probably as we get to sometime after the draft, maybe. We'll see what happens. Thanks.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. That's LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson. Let's take another break. More of Tiger Rag Radio right after this.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, good conversation as always with Coach Jay Johnson. Opened up a little bit about the disappointment as far as losing Marcos Paz to the transfer portal. Also talked about options as far as who could potentially play center field. It sounds like any of those guys might end up playing center field, but especially bringing in Laya, it really protects them if there's an injury or you have another guy that just flat out struggles. I don't anticipate that's going to happen. Bino Waters and Laya in particular have performed at Power 4 schools, and they've performed at a high level. So I don't think what they're going to see in the SEC is going to overwhelm them, or the experience at LSU is going to overwhelm them like it did with some of the guys that transferred in last year. And even Jason Wax to a point. But again, that's American Athletic Conference. Now moving here, it's a little bit different. But I think Jay has a good idea of what they're getting out of him, too. So options and depth, you really got to like that. It just seems like all these guys that they have signed, they were all certainly looked at very hard. They were all vetted very well, and it all makes sense on why they got them.
And the biggest thing about this transfer portal class, regardless of whether they're all SEC ready or not, which is a significant concern, and kind of learned that the hard way, like you were just saying this year. But and he mentioned it in here when we were talking to him, Jay did, they're multidimensional players. They're not just defensive players, or they're not just offensive players. They're athletic players, all of them. and they can all play both sides of the ball, as well as also probably run real well. So that's unique. So that's a good job. The other thing I think this points out is, especially with Layla coming over, any question about whether Jake Brown's coming back, I think was pretty much resolved with that move.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, look at the schools: Oregon, USC, Tulane, Florida, Notre Dame, and Texas State. They play a lot of really good schools like Texas and Texas A&M,
especially in the midweek. Yeah,
and South Florida. They play good schools too. So there's no high points in Grand Canyon and that type of stuff. And so I think that means a lot. These guys are experienced. And you got Cade Curlin, who's been in the SEC at Florida. I mean, he's a veteran. So this looks to me like a really solid class. The only one I would question is Caden Smith, the pitcher, whose numbers weren't good and that team was not that good. But
he's the kid from South Florida,
right? If Jay sees something in him, he sees something in him. And he did become a good strikeout pitcher.
One thing that we didn't talk about, and I meant to, I had it written down. I wanted to talk to him about it. We just ran out of time. But he alluded to it, the injuries in the outfield this year. Well, they had injuries all over the place this year. Pitchers, outfielders. I wonder if that's a concern or any changes are specifically being made to the way they train.
Well, I mean, the hamate bone, that for Jake Brown, that's something you see. You especially see it more in the college level than you do, say, in professional ranks. But I think sometimes that's a bit freakish. Stanfield gets hurt in the second game of the year. Curiel, what did he say? He got injured 3 weeks before the start of season.
Right.
Sprained ankle, whatever it was.
I think those were kind of freakish in a way. I don't think there was a trend there. He did talk a lot about changing things at mid-season.
Right.
Maybe playing too many games. He was talking about his off-season conditioning, so it'll be interesting to find out, to see what he does.
The other thing is that a lot of these guys out of the transfer portal, when you look at their size, 6'1", 6'2", just bigger guys. I mean, I still go back to that Texas A&M series when LSU was swept by the Aggies.
You talking football or basketball? Or baseball?
Baseball. But
could have been anything else.
In that series, it was like...
They won the first half in football.
I don't remember what happened in the second half.
They got swept.
Or what happened right after that second half. I don't know. But I just remember watching that series and saying, like, A&M, like, those were some dudes on that team. And LSU just looked small and inferior to them. And it's been a while since we've seen an LSU baseball team look like they couldn't. A&M won the game coming off the bus, and then obviously performed very well on the field, and they kind of dwarfed over LSU. Those were some men on that team, and LSU is they're on the smallish side.
That's true. That really happened.
The question mark going into the season, he didn't really get he got some stud outfielders and he got some stud infielders.
Yeah.
He didn't get any stud pitchers in the portal. He got some guys that might be good, that have some potential, but he doesn't have a guy like he got last year from Kansas who he just plugged right in. And, so somebody's going to have to come to the forefront that we might not be thinking of, maybe a true freshman, somebody that's been on the team. Who knows?
Even if you look at guys like Anthony Ianson, a lot of people say, okay, he was UC San Diego, but he still pitched on the national USA team.
Yeah.
And he just made the All-Star futures team.
And then, and Gage Jump had some, there was a lot of talk about him, even Thatcher Hurd, but I mean, Landon Hood could be that guy.
Yeah, he could be.
He could be that guy.
Well, and the kid from USC, even though he didn't start this year or anything like that, he did pitch well in some key games. And
something could happen. One of those guys could really develop. That's where the pitching comes in. When they got Paul Skeens, I mean, they improved his mile per hour like 5, which was unbelievable.
You think he's going to come back and get trained here since he's lost some of that velocity recently?
He's still going to become an Air Force fighter pilot, I think.
All right, let's take a break. Final segment of hour number 1 when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio, we're back to Tiger Rag Radio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horn and Glenn Gilbo. Glenn West will join us from On 3, talk about LSU football, LSU recruiting. So looking forward to that conversation coming up after our top of the hour break. We're getting a little bit more information here on LSU men's basketball non-conference schedule. We still don't know exactly what the roster is going to completely look like, but the Tigers are playing teams like Houston and Gonzaga. And to me, I think a matchup that a lot of people are overlooking is December 22nd, LSU and UL Lafayette in the PMAC.
Yeah, it's got a lot of history to it.
It does. It is the night, I was telling this to Case earlier today, LSU's win over the Cajuns in the NIT was the night LSU fans fell in love with Will Wade.
But that wasn't necessarily because of the basketball.
It was the post-game press conference. and that is when LSU fans said, okay, I am going to ride and die with this guy.
Hey, what did he say in that post-game press conference? Not everything he said, word for word. Just give us the gist.
He let Bob Marlin know that they do not play in a gym, first of all. Which I think was one of my favorite lines in the whole thing. And then I loved how he did all his homework on the RPI because Bob Marlin was complaining, who was the coach of the Cajuns at the time, that they should have played the game in the Cajun Dome.
He had a higher RPI.
Yeah,
he had a better RPI.
And then Will Wade listed all the reasons on why the game should be here, and
except for RPI.
It was. I've been covering LSU athletics for 25 years. Glenn, you've been doing it a lot longer than me. To me, it's top 5 best post-game press conferences.
I think it's kind of funny because usually coaches that become beloved and famous and successful at LSU do it against schools bigger than ULL. Les did it by beating Alabama. Okay? Nick did it by beating Alabama and winning national championships. They didn't do it by beating freaking ULL, Will. So let's try to beat somebody else now. Okay?
He did win an SEC regular season championship.
Okay, well, but that's not what you led off with.
But
you
I'm
led
just
off with
saying
this big win over ULL.
That was the night LSU fans fell in love with the guy.
How many players does he have on his roster right now?
Officially, still 4. Right? LSU is officially said 4.
No, if you count
5.
Is it 5?
He's got 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you can play with 4.
He must be confident he's going to get more if he's scheduling freaking Houston and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
And who's Houston's point guard?
DJ.
Yeah.
Best point guard LSU's had in a while, I would say.
Well, since Tremont Waters. So.
Yeah.
So Case and I had a discussion along with Glenn and Jim Inkster this morning where we explained to him who Chris Jackson was.
To Case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not that he did. Case was only born in, 2005, so Chris Jackson was 1988.
Right, I get that.
So that was tough, but, encouraged him to go back and watch some of the film or the tape. But I said, he's the best guard LSU's had. And it was either him or somebody else mentioned Tremont Waters. And I was like, different league. Different game.
Yeah, Tremont Waters is not in Chris Jackson's
league. He was a good player.
He was a good player, but he was more, with DJ on that
Case,
level.
you can take up for yourself.
Well,
I would take Ethan Martin over both of them, too.
We got to hit the top of the hour break. We'll go over great LSU guards a little bit later on. When we coming up next, though, Glenn West from on3.com. We'll take this break. We'll be back after this.